When I first started producing, every track I made just felt empty. Not bad, just missing something. So I did what most producers do. I found better sounds, improved my mixing, and tried to make my arrangements more complex. And yeah, my tracks got better, but they still didn't hit like the songs I was hearing on the charts. And the weird part, I couldn't point to anything they were doing that I wasn't. But that's when it clicked. It wasn't about making my tracks bigger. It was ear candy. Those tiny background details you barely notice, but your brain feels instantly. And once I started using this properly, my tracks didn't just sound better. They actually started to feel finished. So in this video, I'm going to show you 7 ear candy tricks that make your tracks more engaging and keep people coming back to listen to them on repeat. Let's dive in. Technique number 1, vocal glitches and stutters. Turn vocal phrases into ear candy without adding any new instruments. So here's the vocal phrase in context. To replicate their transition into the chorus, I've taken a stretched out vocal that sounds like this. I've then added LFO tool and I've automated the rate to create a glitch effect. On top of that, I've also added satin for saturation and I've automated the mix knob so it becomes more and more distorted as it goes on. And lastly, I've automated the pan knob so it travels from left to right. And then after some subtle EQ and reverb, it sounds like this. That tiny rhythmic moment suddenly grabs your attention without changing the melody. But what if you could create the same kind of impact just by changing the pitch of a single word? Technique number 2, pitch shifted vocal moments. Add emotional lift by momentarily pitching a vocal phrase. So here's the vocal line before. It works, but the phrase just starts to feel a little predictable. Now listen when the last word of the phrase is pitched up. And I've done this by simply duplicating that word. I've then pitched it an octave up, duplicated it once more, and pitched it up again. And that second octave just gives it a bit of sheen. I've then added Valhalla reverb and automated the decay. That small change creates contrast and suddenly makes the line more memorable. But of course, vocals aren't the only element you can manipulate like this. Technique number 3, reverse note melodies. Create forward motion by reversing individual notes in a melody. So here's the piano line before. But it sounds like a very basic piano line, and the notes decay in a really predictable way. Now watch as we slice up each note and drag each one to a new audio track. You can then go ahead and reverse each note, and after adding RC20 and a duplicate higher octave, it sounds like this. Instead of decaying, each note swells into itself, which creates that tension and movement. But what if you didn't change the melody at all and the section still felt completely different? Technique number 4, texture switching. Refresh a loop by switching textures, briefly removing one element and introducing a new sound in its place. This is what the new section sounds like before the texture swap. And it definitely works, but after a few bars, the texture starts to feel a little repetitive. And so this track does something really cool where they introduce a new texture on and off in those gaps between the basses. This is what it sounds like. And you can really hear the texture change between that sawtooth pad, the gritty bass, and the vocal layers. The tone throughout the chorus before that bridge remains very consistent, but that texture swapping technique adds a fresh sound to that section. But sometimes the most interesting sounds in a track aren't always synths. Technique number 5, hidden vocal layers. Add emotion and texture by adding subtle vocals under synths. Here's the instrumental section minus the percussion and without those vocal layers. So as you can see, it feels a little bare and maybe even a little too synthetic. Now listen as we add quiet vocal textures underneath the chorus and bridge. Here they are in solo. To give them a bit of movement, I've automated a 30-second triplet on LFO tool, ensuring the depth increases gradually. I've then added a phaser for a little bit more movement. And while many of those vocals are vocal pads from Exhale, I've of course layered them with live vocals in the bridge to really give them some depth. I actually recorded it with my own vocal initially, and that's where today's sponsor, ADDICTIVE, comes in. ADDICTIVE is an AI vocal platform that lets you record ideas and transform them into realistic vocal performances using a range of different singers. And while this doesn't replace working with real artists, it's incredibly useful for producers who want to test ideas quickly, add vocal harmonies, or create little ear candy vocal textures without having to dig through multiple sample packs, especially if you're building out a portfolio or pitching songs to artists and want to get your ideas down in a matter of hours and not days. So for this track, I actually recorded the lead vocal into this exact mic setup, just my Apollo and SM7B, and ran it through ADDICTIVE. So I'm just going to drag the vocal in that I recorded, and you'll be able to play it through the player. And notice that I've actually got the tuning on pretty heavy. So before I run anything through ADDICTIVE, I'm first going to choose a vocalist. Cool, so I really like the sound of Haley's vocal, so we're going to use that one. Then I'm going to pitch shift it up an octave and keep the conversion strength to around 30%. It then takes a few seconds to convert, and here's the result. So really, really cool, and you can see just how useful this can be if you're a songwriter or producer and you just want to get your ideas down and fully flesh out those demos while you're in the flow. Especially if you're like me and singing isn't really your thing, this is a really cool way to articulate your ideas. So then if I want some backing vocals, maybe some doubles and harmonies, I'm just going to download the vocal I created, and we're going to move over to Make Harmonies up on the left. So I'm just going to drag in my new vocal, and then after we select the key, which in this case is F sharp minor, we can then select any voice we want to double it. So halfway through this chorus, there is actually a lower fifth harmony that happens. So we're just going to click add voice, and you can either go to the same singer or a new one. We'll leave it on this new singer for now, but then you just select minus fifth, wait for it to load, and you can preview it right inside the platform. But as you can see, it's just such a simple way to create a harmony. Even if you've already had a singer in the studio, maybe they've left, and you didn't get all the vocals that you would have liked, this can also be a really cool way just to add some depth to existing vocals. If you want to check out ADDICTIVE for yourself, I've left a link and discount code in the description. Now back to the video. Technique number 6, one-shot accents. Reset the listener's attention using one-off sounds. Although it's repeated in Justin Bieber's Too Long, there's a great example of this using filtered vocal chops. Here's the track without them. It definitely works, but after a few bars, your brain starts predicting what's going to come next. Now listen when the one-shots appear. And of course, using one of my favorite plugins for ear candy, CLAFX, just adding some drive, reverb, width, and slapback delay. There are some other great examples in Jennie's track ZAYN. Something like a shouted hey sample or even getting your singer to record it can be a really great tool to add that impact to your snares. So if we have a listen, it sounds like this. And although that one hit after the snare, it still added a nice rhythmic bounce to lead us into that section. Another simple but very effective one-shot technique is simply adding a verbed out clap. Notice how I've got a small reverse duplicate of the same sound on a different track? This is really useful when placing a sound in isolation and just makes its presence in that spot a little less abrupt. Lastly is something a little less conventional, but I think still works really well in tracks like these, and they're short growl samples to complement the bass. And here they are in context. Because they only appear occasionally, these sounds can really grab your attention. And the last technique does something similar, but instead of appearing inside the section, it happens right before it. Technique number 7, creative transitions. Create momentum into a new section using unexpected elements. If we have a look at the end of this bar in ZAYN's Die For Me and into the next section, this is what it sounds like. But to replicate what's going on in the track, we've taken a drum beat that sounds like this. And then we've sliced up only the kick sample and repeated it 6 times into the next section. This is what it sounds like. And that short kick burst adds so much energy to that next section. Another example of this is using something like a sampled breath, which we're actually using at the start of the chorus here. Simply reversing that downlifter sounds like this. And in context, this is what it sounds like. So as you can see, ear candy isn't just about adding more sounds. It's about adding the right sounds at the right moments. And if you're serious about finishing high quality tracks consistently and want my direct help to make that happen, click the link below and book a call. Don't forget to check out Audemy. And if you enjoyed this video, check out this one over here. I think you'll really enjoy it.